one last thing is your environment. So going back to our README, we should have something for our environment here because, like I said, your project is a little too specific to your own setup. And so we want some sort of configuration file that we can update in one place very easily to make our site run wherever we want, maybe on a different URL, maybe on a different whatever, right? Because you have a lot of configuration kind of sprinkled throughout your actual logic and classes and functions and all over the place. You want to group all that configuration into one place. So I'm going to make a note here that you should have in the root of your project a config. Okay.
Okay.
And in there, you're going to put like, this might have your site URL, your database connection, right? So I noticed, in database, it's good that you have it in one file. But all of this, well, this is configuration stuff, right? This is like all this database connection stuff. This is stuff that can change from project to project, right? Before, when I was setting this up, I named my own database because there's no instructions. I just named it whatever. But then I had to rename it because the name of the database was hard coded into this, right? It doesn't have to be hard coded. It can be part of the configuration, which brings us to environment. So now that you have a config file, PHP config file, this config file should probably pull in a env.php, okay? So this env file is just going to be a simple PHP file. I'll make it here. And I'm making it hidden because we're not going to version it. Why? Because it's going to change from person to person, right? This is for their own convenience, right? So then in here, everything that is particular to every installation, to every environment that this thing is running on, we can make, like the database name. It could be Jules' school, whatever. That way, if I wanted to, I could like change everything in this one file for the whole application. Anything that can be changed will be changed in this one place. And then in your config file, you're going to pull in all of these variables for your project. And you're going to maybe add a few others that are used internally, like, just like arrays, like I was saying before, validation rules and stuff like that, stuff that you wouldn't change from the outside when you're setting up, but that should still be some sort of configuration for your application. That would go in your config file along with all of these user-defined variables. When I say user-defined, I mean like the developer-defined ones.
Right.
Did that make sense? I know it's a lot of information right now.
I'm not sure what the difference is between the config and environment.
Okay, I'll go over it.
Is it because the config you would version?
Yes, you're going to. I didn't actually.
Okay, config is for what the program is doing, whereas the environment is the configuration variables, but just so that the program works at home on your system.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because you can have like one encompasses the other, right? So you're gonna have this config, and it's gonna return, let's say, your validation rules. Okay.
Okay.
This is for your program, and it's for use in your program only, and like the whole program actually relies on this quite heavily, and it is what it is. Okay. But in order to avoid like all these kind of crazy loops and conditions and switch cases in our program, we're passing in this one array of configuration to it, right? For name and email and I don't know, grade. I don't know what it is. Then we have other stuff like database connection. That's also configuration. But the thing about the database connection is that it's environment specific. Okay, so the DB name is going to be something that we actually pull in. Include once from our env.php. Okay, and this will be environment. Okay, and that way we can refer to it. Environment. So now in one file, we have everything that has to do with the environment, right? And then the other is like everything that has to do with configuration, which includes the environment as well.
Right. Okay.
And then the last thing I'll note is because this isn't versioned, but you know, it also it should be there. We're going to do this. Okay. We're going to duplicate this. We're going to call this sample. Because we need to know what the data structure looks like before we can alter it, right? We need to know that that our application looks for a key called database name in order to configure the database, right? But how do we know that if we don't have the file because it's not versioned? We're going to have a sample one here, and then we're going to put it in our README in our setup. Rename sample env to env.php. And configure your environment. And in our more, we're going to add env.php. Okay. So this isn't versioned because it's particular to the user's environment, but we gave them instructions on how to create this file so that we can run on their machine with their environment.
All right.
Cool. I'll stop there. This was
I think
a lot
I got
of
it.
information.
Yeah.